What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a video. Today we're going to talk about the next step in our video series where we go from beginner to pro for photography. So let's go right into it. As you learn photography, you're going to find out a bunch of different things, especially on the internet, and some cool tips and tricks. Here's a few tips that you should put in right away so that you can get the best results as soon as possible and you don't have to really worry about it as time goes on. Number one is you should shoot in RAW and JPEG. And a lot of you are going to say, why RAW and JPEG, why not just RAW? RAW is really good for a variety of things. I'll show some examples, but RAW basically means that you have more data for the picture that you took. So if I took a picture of myself, for example, the picture could be 24 megapixels and the JPEG would be like, 1 or 2. But the difference between RAW and JPEG is, and you'll even see it if I put a few examples up on screen or if you just search it up on Google, you'll see that the JPEG has a little bit less detail, but also when you're editing, especially in Lightroom, you're going to find out that there's a lot more limitations because there's not as much data there. So RAWs are kind of like everything that's there, and the coolest part is you can save a photo from being kind of, like garbage to something that's more usable. You can bring up the exposure, you can bring up the darkness, whatever you want. Like you can pretty much do whatever, and you have full range of freedom to do whatever. So that's the biggest reason you should shoot in RAW and JPEG. But the two things I'm going to say is the reason you wanted to have JPEG there as well is because JPEG will make it so that, one, if you want to transfer files to people, let's say you need someone else to edit it or you need something else to do, then you can always transfer the files really quickly because you don't have to kind of take every file that's in RAW and convert it, especially because sometimes that takes a long time, or you might need to find some online generator and that takes another whole time on its own. The second thing is also, if something happens with the RAWs, for example, I can't open, it's corrupted, you have a backup. So having RAW and JPEG means that you will have more safety in terms of having your files and also making sure everything's there. Even though it'll take up more space ultimately, you're better off taking more space and deleting it later if you really want to, rather than having it not at all and then something goes wrong and then you have no backup whatsoever, because taking a reshoot or something like that is almost impossible sometimes. The next thing I would say is you want to edit your photos. Editing photos will make it so it's way better to look at, and also you can add your own style to it. And the biggest part is you don't have to get everything perfect right away. So if I underexpose something, which means it's going to be darker than usual, I can take it and I can put it into Lightroom, for example, and change everything I want, and like I said before, save the photo. So shooting the photo and then putting it into software to edit will immensely help you, and it'll kind of really define your style. And you might find something that you like, you might like dark tones better, or you might like having everything desaturated in the back and then yourself is in focus, something like that. You might find something, and that's the biggest reason you want to make sure you edit your photos as soon as possible. Don't just take them and send them right away unless someone else is editing them for you. One more tip I want to say is you want to start using flash. So for a camera, you want to put the flash on, or you want to have a flash somewhere else, so like in a softbox or something. So for example, you might have something like this where, I don't know if you can see that on camera, but like there's a light bulb in here. This is not a flash one, but I mean, it's for light. And basically you want to have something like that. Basically you want to have something like that so that you can have tons of light, and it'll make it so it's easier to work with. And the best part is you don't have to worry about things moving and stuff like that. So for example, if you take a picture in a club, you're going to see that if you lower your shutter speed and stuff, you'll get things like shutter drag and things, and that's still really good. And if you put a flash on that, you get like kind of like a freeze frame almost, and it looks really cool. I'll put some examples on screen as well, but that's one example in the field. Then if you have a studio, for example, you're going to have more of a stationary setup where the lights are kind of in one place. But then the cool part is you're going to get a lot better results in terms of photos and people in focus and stuff like that. And that's where things like that can be really useful, especially if you're taking stuff for brands, for example, like clothing lines, products, anything. It freezes it in motion, and that's how you get really cool shots. So for example, if you see ads where things are flying up into the air and it's like a freeze frame of the product in it, so like a can of water or something, and then like the flavor of raspberry next to it or something like that, you can have a freeze frame of that, and the flash will make sure that it's all like in focus and all freeze frame. So that's another thing to really use flash as much as you can. And I loafed on this for so long, but that's something that'll change your game a lot, and you won't have to worry about things as much. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video and learned something. And if you really want to learn more about all these different topics I talked about, I'm going to be making separate videos for each of them, and then you can see them more in depth and why I'm saying to do these as early as possible. So if you liked it, please follow and like and subscribe because I'm going to be putting a ton of stuff out, and keep up to date with me so you can see all of this when it releases. And I really hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Peace out. Bye.